Now I could document my failures more and know this didn't work.
You're going through the struggles right now. What's the probability of you ever walking again? People in the same position as you that are looking up to you, at least you could say, look, this is what I know doesn't work. I mean, at least you could rule out or rewrite the books. Rule out right away. Don't even waste your time. Don't even waste your money doing these things.
Once you learn how to do this type of stuff and recover from these sort of injuries, now you're able to transpire and put that information into someone else.
Man, when you were talking, though, it inspired me. It made me think about, like, for your story, I mean, obviously overcoming what you're dealing with right now would be the biggest win anyone can ever imagine. But what if you were able to overcome this and you start leading a more normal life? And then you could take that and, as you mentioned, maybe teach others. And, like, I mean, what a success story that would be, to be able to take what was your downfall and make it
my superpower.
Your superpower, and then give it back to others. I mean, it would be a fantastic story, man. In any aspect in life, in fighting, in rehab, in anything that you're doing, you just have to go into it with a warrior mentality. I'm going to give it everything that I have. And at least at the end of the day, win or lose, I knew that I did that. I left it all in there. This is something that I kind of live by. Momentum builds momentum. Momentum builds momentum. And it's just
the first episode of the InnerAnimal experience, where I got to host with Alan Jouban, former UFC savage, and one of the most savage out of the South. And we're here to show you some of the mentality tips and tricks we savages from the South had to learn the hard way. So
yeah.
Shout out to Tim Metcalf for allowing me all this amazing stuff, and for my buddy Bo for letting us use this setup. And thank you for allowing me to make another push to my next chapter of life, and to freaking take it to the big screens. So in my, I guess a good way to start it would be, how can we jump right into the mentality behind, like, whenever you're coming out of a loss, you're in a rut, you're in a funk, but man, you just need to find that fire within you and overcome this obstacle. So what do you think going into that would be, how would you look at something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I remember one of my first losses in the UFC. I was in the back in the showers, and a guy walked back there, and he saw my energy, right? And he said, short-term memory, man, short-term memory. Mourn right now, go back to your hotel room, be with your family. Tomorrow's a new day, and you start righting that wrong right there. And that's how it is in MMA. It's not that easy, though. It's not that simple, because in MMA, you lose a soccer match, you lose a football game, you can make it up next weekend, and it's a team sport. It's not getting beat up on national television. It's not losing, getting knocked out, getting submitted, all these things that happen. So it takes a lot longer, and fighters don't ever show that. Like, a lot of fighters, we just don't want to show weakness or fear. You know, it's always there. But you go home, and it's something that you're dealing with every day. So it's just get back in the gym, assess what happened, how can I correct that, and get back to the drawing board immediately. But man, the fight game's just,
it's different.
It's just brutal, man. It's just brutal. I try to tell my son about this. Like, he talks about, he's at the age now where he's 11 and I'm retired. So I watch him. I'm on the sidelines every weekend watching him, where his whole childhood, he was at arenas watching me fight. And he was kind of too young to really know what was going on, right? You know, when you're 5, 6, 7, that's kind of, I think around 7 or 8 is when kids start to actually have their first memory. If you think back, like, your earliest childhood memory, it's probably going to be around the age of 5, 6, or 7, you know? And a lot of my stuff happened before that in my son's life. And so he's at the age now where anytime I have the opportunity, I could show him something that, like, I just competed in a jiu-jitsu tournament this morning. And I went in there and I said, can we have coaches in our corner? And they said, yeah. I said, okay, I want my son to be my coach, because I want him to sit there and share energy with me, right? To see what I'm going through, so he could be a part of that. And I was down on one of the matches, and I looked over to him and I said, what's the score? He didn't really, he's like 3-0, I think, you know, but I'm trying to communicate with him and show him, like, Dad's losing right now. I got to make something happen. I can't just accept defeat. I have to find a way out of this, sweep the guy, get on top, get some points. I have to come back. And so to share those experiences with my son now, are priceless to me. I know I'm getting a bit off track from the original question, but it's something that, for me, my whole goal in fighting was to leave everything I had inside the octagon, but not leave my entire identity with fighting, because it's a chapter of your life. It's just a chapter, man. You're only going to be a professional athlete for so long in your life. And then after that, you have to find a way to be happy and have a purpose and wake up every morning with that purpose. And for me, it was kind of a transition. I stopped fighting in LA, and then when I retired, I said, all right, I'm going to move home where all my family's at. I'm going to move back to Louisiana. Now I'm in a new city, so to speak, and a new career. I'm not waking up training twice a day with this purpose, and I had to find something. So I went back to competition in jiu-jitsu, the form of jiu-jitsu, and it kind of gave me that purpose. And now, like I said, I'm able to kind of show my son physically and mentally what I speak about to him every day, because I'm always trying to throw knowledge at him, right? And I'll send him TikTok videos, that inspire me. But you don't know how much they absorb it. But they watch you. The kids watch you. And so anyway, if I could do that in person, it helps a lot. But
man, you said some really interesting stuff, like talking about the energy and the purpose. So obviously, like leading up to your career, your purpose is to wake up and just unleash that inner animal and go out and overcome your opponent. But now that you're into the more retired life and your purpose is more or less, I'm sure, raising and leading your family is that your purpose? Or how do you find, or I guess what would be a good way or a good thing to tell someone who's maybe just struggled at finding their purpose? Like, why do they want to get up every day and continue to fight whatever they have to fight to overcome? Like, I guess for every person it's so individualized, but what's something you think could help someone with looking for their purpose?
It's a good question. I mean, I think you have to go out there and just find it, because I don't know how exactly how to tell someone how to find your purpose, but some people don't realize that you need to get up with a purpose every morning. Whatever it is, man. If it's just, look, money's on my mind, great. Go find a way to make as much money as possible. That should be what leads you every day. You should get up every day and say, all right, I've got an extra half hour this morning. What can I do? If I send a couple emails out there, if I shoot a couple things on Facebook, maybe somebody's going to respond. Maybe it kind of comes back into me with the universe. And you
like
put it out there. Yeah. I mean, you put stuff out there and it comes back. And for me, like I said, when I was struggling with what is my identity now? I was fortunate enough to finish fighting and go into broadcasting, where I was still in the MMA space, but I was no longer the guy that was the fighter. Now I'm interviewing guys, and I'm trying to give them as much shine as possible. And so that fulfilled me in a way, but I also still needed that purpose to get up every morning, right? To feel like I'm doing better. And so when I went back to martial arts, which is what grounded me from the get-go, I found that purpose. I said, all right, I don't have to be the toughest guy in the gym anymore. And I don't have to go out there in front of millions of people and put it all on the line and possibly win or lose or get knocked out or knock somebody out. One of us is going to go home feeling a certain way. I don't have to do that anymore. But if I go to the gym still and I go and I find jiu-jitsu, I find something that's going to give me purpose. I'm going to get better every day, right? I can still look at jiu-jitsu videos and say, I haven't tried this move. Let me go for this. And I think with everybody, especially, I feel more so with men, being that most men are, the caretakers for their homes and everything. Money's one thing, but also just something that fulfills you. You feel like you're getting stronger. You feel like you're building a business. You feel like you're helping employ other people. It gives you that sense of purpose that you're doing something, not only for yourself, but it's kind of like you're giving back in a way as well. So It's much more gratifying than just going with the flow and not getting up every morning, like with
aimless.
Yeah, because it's fun to get up, excited to wake up in the morning, right? And we don't always have that, but when you can find something that excites you to wake up, I mean, that's what it's all about.
Oh, definitely, man. Like, I guess leading up to my injury, that's kind of how it was. I mean, I was at that stage where I'm just graduating, I'm a young, arrogant punk wanting to go get into some trouble. So that was my excitement waking up, I guess. But now it's like, even though it's just something as small as rehab, trying to find my new 100%.
You probably love rehab, right?
I love it. Oh, my goodness.
And I know you do it probably, how many times?
So 3 times a week, thank God, man.
3 times a week.
I have insurance is now covering twice a week. But, dude,
Correct.
The guy who found me in the gym initially, my buddy Scott McBride, he's a physical therapist, and he saw me. He's like, man, I've been seeing you grinding every morning, and you're seeing progress, it seems. Would you want to come work with me? I'm like, bro, insurance isn't going to cover it. He's like, I didn't ask about insurance. So this man's been training me once a week on his lunch break. And we just came from that, and, we continuously worked. And whenever insurance picked back up because we'd seen so much results, he's like, no, I'm going to still train you. Now we're going to go put you at a better facility for you to get more hands-on, more brains, more minds working together to think to it, to how do we overcome this? And, man, that's been such a game changer, just being around the resources. And I find that a lot of us don't even know what the resources are available because, so many people, they look at, man, I want to recover, I want to walk. For a paraplegic, that's a very improbable goal. So they shut down, they want to come into this box. But me, I was stubborn, and I still am. So I don't believe in boxes. I don't believe in giving myself a goal or the purpose. For me, I don't care how unachievable it looks around me, because I've seen it, I've dreamt about it. I've had people tell me that they've dreamt about it. So I put it out into the atmosphere so much that now that it's coming back tenfold, it's like, how do I help people find that within themselves, either recovery wise, job wise, like you said, business wise, regardless what it is, we need that purpose. So it's like, to show people, look, my impossible purpose was possible. I'm sure at the beginning people were probably like, man, Alan, you're never going to be a professional fighter. And you said, well, look, watch my impossible purpose.
What's the probability of you ever walking again or getting in a wheelchair? Getting out of it?
With the thoracic level injury, dude, I think it's like in the 30% range, if not less, because higher up.
30% chance
yes.
You're done with that wheelchair.
Correct. And man, well, and my numbers could be wrong, but I've also seen some statistics like people after spinal cord injuries, a lot of people get depressed and everything. So the suicide rates are up like 50-something%. So your average life expectancy is typically 30 years after your injury, give or take. I forget the exact number, but it was like, that's so, in my eyes, almost disgusting. It's like we see there's a problem, and I guess people trying to help it are come in all kinds of different ways. But it's like, instead of pumping us up with medicine and stuff to make us feel better, make life a little more enjoyable, why don't we get out of our comfort zone? You know, I don't want to get doped up with meds. I have to go through the pain, but I like the pain because it's still something. It's a feeling, you know? And it's crazy. I've asked God so many times, it's like, I just want a feeling. I guess I didn't specify, because now I'm getting a lot of pain, a lot of new pains, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like in my eyes, that means I'm moving towards my goal.
I want you to know, man, like, when I meet people for the first time, I have to put them in my phone a certain way. So I remember either where I met them, you know what I mean, more tall guy, whatever, where I met you at. And when I met you, I put your name in my phone and I put wheelchair, because that's the most obvious thing that jumps out, right? And then I put on the side of it, for now. Because when I met you, man, your mentality was so strong, and I recognized it right away that you were like driven. And you would just, I remember you telling me and Dustin were sitting across from the table, and like how focused you were and how everything you do. And then when I started seeing your videos and everything you're doing, I was like, whatever the probability rate is for this injury, if anybody could do it, if there's a small margin of hope, if there's a chance, a percentage, you're the type of guy that's going to get it, who's going to beat it, who's going to win right there, because you have to do everything in your means, everything possible to overcome something that huge. But only a small margin of people are going to have the focus and the mindset and the strength to do it. But you're one of those guys, man, and I could tell that about your character the first time meeting you, and then obviously seeing all your videos and everything on social media. You know, it's hard to believe everything, but I see it in you, man, and I believe it, because, you know, what else would be the biggest goal in life? Yeah, you got to still make money and support yourself, but if they're telling me there's a percentage you could overcome this obstacle, buddy, that's the top of my list. I understand where you're at right now.
Oh yes, and I mean, man, originally it was such a grim prognosis, because at the time, man, this was 2017, so all these technologies and therapies weren't as readily available. So they're like, look, man, with this sort of injury, if you're not seeing any results within 6 months to a year, you could about wrap it up. So dude, whenever that timeline came, my heart sank, because I'm like, dude, they're right. I'm nowhere close to my goal. I feel like I hadn't moved at all, maybe just degressed, if anything. And it pissed me off in a sense to like fuel my fire. It gave me something to fight for. And that's why I think my mentality may resemble, or it may be similar to a lot of fighters, because y'all have to go against some stuff that you're looking at this guy's footage and you're like, man, this guy could probably kill me if he got his hands around me. So how do you go into a fight knowing that your opponent may be bigger or badder than you? Like, do you look at the probabilities of the numbers, or do you look within yourself?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about fighting, and I'm trying not to geek out too much on just fighting specifically, but with fighting, let's say they announce a fight and they say, hey, you're fighting this guy. Immediately you go look him up, right? You just want to see what it looks like. You look him up right away. It's this big, muscular freaking guy. You look at his record. Okay, he's 20-2, 10 knockouts. Then you go and you watch his footage, and you just kind of get a feel for the way that he moves, his style. Is he a striker? Is he a grappler? Is he aggressive in this? Is he faster than me on the feet? Is he stronger than me on the ground? You just assess it, a general assessment. And then from there, I don't look at footage again, because what happens is the more that you watch somebody, the more you become a fan of them. You go, oh, shit, this guy's strong. This guy's good. Oh, this guy's got a family, and this is what he's fighting for. he's got a great cause as well. Like, I'm a fan. This guy's good. Now it gets into your head, and you have to be your own biggest supporter, right? In fighting, you've got corners, you've got coaches, you've got family supporting you. It's a one-on-one sport. You're in there, and you're the only person inside of your head. So you have to do what gets you ready for that fight day in the best way, right? And so becoming a fan or scared to fight someone or recognizing how good they are could diminish your confidence, right? So you don't want to do that too much. So typically you see a guy, you assess it, you know kind of how you need to fight this style, and you go through your camp. And then your coaches go in there and they go do all the homework. They do dig deep, and they know, look, he's going to be low kicking you. We're going to work on checking low kicks, checking low kicks, checking low kicks. He's got a laser right hand, so we're going to be working on hand up, slip and counter, slip and counter. They go through the motions for you. They do all that homework. They become the fan of the guy. That way they could be your teacher and teach you the formula to beating this guy. Once you've put in all that work, the X's and O's, and your DNA is now how to beat this guy. I move in a certain way to fight this guy stylistically against these two guys. Then at the end of camp, I go back and I watch it. And it's so much more clear. It's like the first time I saw him, oh, he's a big, strong guy. And he's fast on the feet and he's strong on the ground. But after doing all the subtleties that the coaches prepared you for, you go back and you watch it 2 weeks before the fight. And you go, oh, I see now. He's got to tell. He kind of feints like that before he throws that right hand. So I know when he does that, he's going to do this. If he gets me to the ground, I got to just fight for my life, because that's where he's trying to get. It all becomes like a clear picture for you. And that's when, all right, I know exactly how to beat this guy. Now it's just about execution. It's about executing everything that you've done. But that, to me, is the best formula for preparing for someone who's preparing for you. Don't overthink it. Don't watch too much footage. Don't look at their family life. Don't watch every podcast they've done, because you might like this guy. You might say, damn, we got some similarities here, man. Like, I think I could hang out with this guy. But you don't want to be like that. You want to know just enough about him to beat his ass. And then after, you can get to know each other later.
Right. You want to go in with that warrior mindset that regardless of the outcome, you're here to win, and you're going to put up the effort to win. So how does, I guess, the mentality looking into that, where you're able to watch your opponent? See, for me personally, it's like I don't really have much to watch to see, okay, well, how did they do it? How did they overcome this? So I bet it's kind of similar with like fatherhood, or maybe even being an announcer. Like, how do you, I guess, gear up yourself mentally to go into these new bouts, to go into these fights without watching what your opponent can do? Because now your opponent is, the challenges that your kid's life may face, or that your wife, the home life and stuff. How do you go into situations not being able to see the opponent?
Yeah, well, so trying to speak a little bit in a broader aspect, but with fighting, that happens early in your career. When I first started fighting, I was fighting Muay Thai before I was doing MMA, which is, it's like kickboxing with knees and elbows. And we would fight at these things in LA called smokers. And if you've never heard of a smoker is basically you and all the guys from your gym and all the guys in the city from a bunch of different gyms go and meet up at a gym, and they organize some fights. And they have them here in Lafayette as well, Gladiators Academy. And you basically go and you just size each other up. They go and they say, you jump on the scale, I jump on the scale. Okay, we're within about 10 pounds. Okay, you've got 5 fights, I've got less than 5 fights. We're within about the same experience rate, right? But we don't know anything about each other. We're still newbies. There's not a bunch of footage of a smoker fights on the internet. So the element of surprise is the biggest thing there. And so I remember early in my career, I would warm up as an orthodox. I'm a southpaw. I'm a lefty, right? And it's tough to fight southpaws. So I would always warm up, and I would make my coaches kind of block. And I would warm up as an orthodox fighter. So the guy thinks I'm an orthodox guy, right? And he's kind of preparing. Okay, I kind of see, oh, he's a Muay Thai guy. Okay, he's a righty. And then I get in there and boom, the element of surprise is there. And so I love that part of it, kind of using the element of surprise, because people don't know how fast you are and everything that you've done. Once you get to the UFC or any top organization, they know everything about you, because there's just tons of footage on you. They could go, and a lot of fighters will go into interview, or coaches will go and they'll watch interviews, and they'll see what the fighter was saying. They'll say like, man, I thought it was done in there. I thought I was done. I thought about giving up. And then they'll go and give you that feedback. Look, this guy's got quit in him. He said he thought he would fight. Like, this guy's got quit. You will never quit, Alan. So there's so much more information at the higher levels it's such a chess match early on, where, later on in your career, where early on in your career, it's like checkers, man. It's just like two guys going in there throwing blows and seeing what happens.
Right. Man, and I was watching the other day, you had posted a story. It's like, I guess you had some rough matches and you were kind of talking how to, I guess, how does someone mentally prepare after just coming out of that loss? And, like, what does that do to you whenever you lose, regardless if it's a fight or just a life loss? Like, I guess, how do you take loss and use it as a fuel to continue?
Yeah, I mean, with everything, I can remember not my first loss, but the first loss that really impacted me emotionally. It was when I was this close to reaching my dream, and I was fighting for a couple of years, and I was already an older fighter, right? I knew my window was much smaller than other fighters, so I had to kind of push the pace more, fight more frequently. If I was going to get to the UFC, I didn't want to get to the UFC at 35. Guys are retiring at 35. I needed to get there as soon as possible. Anyway, I fought in this organization called the RFA, which is a feeder to the UFC. Had a fight of the year, my first fight. Second fight, they give me the championship fight right away. So I'm fighting for the belt in this guy's backyard. And I went there, and I had just kind of parted ways with my coach. So I went there alone. Enemy territories, flew to Des Moines, Iowa, by myself. And it was like the scariest thing I've ever done, just thinking like, I'm flying here by myself. I usually have my support team, my coaches, everything with me. I'm going here by myself, but I got to make this happen. I called my brother. I called two of my friends, flew them out there. They flew there, they met me, and they cornered me, and I lost the fight. A 5-round fight, 25 minutes for the belt, and I lost. And they raised his hand, and they put the belt around his waist, and I was devastated, man, and I was about to start crying inside the octagon. And I remember one of my teammates coming up. He goes, "Not here, bro. Not here. Don't show it." And so I was just holding everything in. And I went to the back, and I was getting stitched up. And I just started bawling, man, because I knew my dream, that was my shot. Like, we always think we have one opportunity in life, one big opportunity, and you've got to maximize. You got to take advantage of it. And that, to me, was my opportunity as a guy that was 31 years old already, not even in the UFC yet. That was my opportunity. They put the gold belt around his waist. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, the UFC scooped him up. And I go, God damn. He took the belt. He's in the UFC now. He's doing everything that I wanted to do. Like, that's my dream right there. And I remember going home, and my father called me, and he said, well, what are you going to do now? Are you going to hang him up? And I was like, I was almost angry at him. And I was like, hang him up. No, that's the last thing on my mind. That's the last thing on my mind right now. The only thing on my mind right now is I'm going to mourn this for 24, 48 hours, and I'm going to get better. And so I got out wrestled that match. And then so I started looking around, and I was in Los Angeles. I go, where's the best wrestling in Los Angeles? And I found a place. My guy, Kenny Johnson, who's Bolt Wrestling, my wrestling coach, he's at Black House MMA. And I looked it up. Okay, that's over an hour drive from where I live. But do I want to reach my dreams, or do I just want to go to the easiest, closest gym? I got to reach my dreams, right? So I would drive to Black House every day, an hour drive there, 2 hours of wrestling, hour drive back, come home, recover, go train again. And I did what I had to do. I got the wrestling base, won a couple more fights, got signed to the UFC. And that was always, to me, the pivotal point in my career where I could have hung him up, which was never even a thought. But I could have also just taken the easy route, kept doing what I was doing. Right? And yeah, hopefully it works out. No, but it's bullshit. If you're just going to keep doing what you're doing, you're not finding success, then are you really in it to win it, right? And I said, I have to get out of my comfort zone. I have to drive over an hour here and train with all these freaking wrestlers and these beasts, drive home and do it again every single day, because that's my goal and I have to do what I got to do. And I always look back at that and I'm like, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself that I took that route, that I did what I had to do, because it ended up paying off in the long run.
Having to go the hard way. It's like so many people nowadays I find want to be comfortable and they want to go the easy route. Because, yeah, sure, the easy route sounds great. But I find there's a lot more value in going the hard route. Like, you're going to look at your options and say, well, it's going to be harder for me to go out and travel this much extra. But hey, maybe it's worth it. Because a lot of people, it's like they continuously do things that they say, well, I'm not getting the results I want. Well, then why you keep trying? That's then the definition of insanity,
right.
Trying the same things and expecting different results. So it's like you got to go, I guess, above yourself and look at a perspective that's like not through your eyes in a sense. So I guess, well, being that you were in the fight scene so long, it was probably not as bad. But I guess what was the transition like that once upon a time you were the star fighter, you were the star of the show, and now you're just able to observe and commentate and tell people what you're seeing through the eyes of that star, you know?
Yeah. It was a transition, but it was it felt natural. You know, like I didn't see myself the first couple of years that I transitioned from fighting to broadcasting. I still thought I was a fighter, and so it was a little funny because like I'm almost talking to people competitively, because if I'm a welterweight and I'm interviewing you and you're a welterweight, I still have my guard up, right? Like, you know, yeah, maybe I could have beat you, you know. So it's like it wasn't. I didn't have a clear cut. This is what I'm here to do, and then after a little while, those competitive natures kind of left my body, right? In terms of I'm not that guy anymore, and going to the gym as well. I would still go to the gym and try to be the baddest guy in the gym. And I go, Alan, you're not even fighting anymore. I'm in my 40s now. What am I trying to compete with these young guys that are trying to chase the same dream as me? Now I could just transition. Now instead of having to battle these guys to the death every day in the gym, I can go, look, man, can I show you a little tip? Something can I add to your journey as well? Because I've been there as well, right? So now I kind of found a way to transition. If I can contribute in any way, and I'm not really a coach. I taught for a long time. I know how to instruct people, but I'm not a coach per se, so to speak, in the gym. That's not my identity. I'm more of a competitor. But I found a way, even as a competitor, to help contribute to other guys and take myself out of that scenario where we don't have to go head-to-head every round. We can go have some hard rounds, and if there's anything that I could add to this that I might be able to know that I've learned in my years, I'm going to show you and let you take it and run with it now. So that was the transition for me going into it, and now I fully accepted it. I love it. Like I said, this morning I competed in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and it was great, you know, to be able to still, at this age, I mentioned it earlier, give everything I have to the sport, but not let it take everything from me. And I've still got something in me. Like I remember one of my buddies telling me one time, because I was injured like crazy, and my injuries probably mean nothing to you, but you know, in terms of like you've dealt with some such severe ones. But throughout my career, or just more so my life, it wasn't all my career, but 10 broken bones, 10 surgeries. So I was kind of holding on by a thread to keep competing at a later age. And my buddy was telling me one time, he was like, dude, don't you want to like throw the football with your son one day or something? Like, because I was on crutches again, like for the 10th time. And I was like, yeah, man, yeah, of course. He's like, well, dude, you're like injured every time I see you. Every fight you broke a bone, or you tore your ACL or hand surgery. You're not going to be able to do all that stuff. And it kind of dawned on me. I go, you know, like, he's right. I want to give everything I have in those 15 or 25 minutes, but it's only a small chapter of your life. And I learned that now when I look back at it, I was like, yeah, man, I was this young lion. You know, I get pumped up when I see my videos, but I'm in a different place now. Now, I'm still physically able to do what I can at this age and compete in jiu-jitsu tournaments. I had my son coach me this morning, sit on the sidelines, but nonetheless, it felt great to interact with him. I could still go play soccer with him outside. And that was my biggest win. That was my biggest win in terms of have a successful career as a fighter and still be able to be successful and have that purpose that we spoke about and do the things that I want to do after the fighting career is all done.
Man, you said something really interesting. It's like noting that that's just a chapter of your life and it's not your entire life and identity. Man, it took me a while to understand and kind of be able to look at that with my situation. Because, man, after these sort of injuries, a lot of people tend to let their disability become their identity. And, man, I struggled with it for so long because it's like I didn't necessarily have much of an identity until that point, you know, besides being...
Because you were like 17, 18 when it happened?
Exactly. I was only 17. So it's like I was just a loud, reckless kid that liked to fight, cut up, and party with my friends. But I'm pretty sure that's just about every 17-year-old around here. And it's like, man, now that I'm in this wheelchair, I'm going to get so into fitness and recovery that is throwing me into a completely new industry, a new mindset, a new surrounding. And it's like, it's crazy for me to think that, wow, this 7 years has felt like so long, but it's really just a chapter. And it's crazy to think like, well, what do I want my whole book to look like? What do I want the whole story to be? And it's like, now I'm starting to look at it in a different sense. Like whenever I met with you, Tim and Dustin, it's like Tim had put a lot of thoughts in my head. He's like, man, like once you learn how to do this type of stuff and recover from these sort of injuries, now you're able to transpire and put that information into someone else to at least offer them. And it's like, whoa, that's powerful, because at certain point in my life, I desperately needed it. You know, it's like I was super depressed, and in my head thought that I was never going to be able to get out of it. So I'm almost wanting to, you know, I was very suicidal at that stage of my life. And it's like that little bit of inspiration that my friend said, look, he's got some insight, some knowledge on this aspect. It gave it to me, and I just took it and run with it. And so how do you, I guess, go about looking at your whole picture? Like, what do you want your picture to be now that you've got your purpose and you've got the stardom of it? It's like, what do you want for Alan moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's something that early on in life I never thought about. When somebody would say, "What's your 5-year plan?" You asked me that at 17. I was the same way, man. I was a knucklehead. I mean, I was so bad. I got kicked out of school here in Lafayette. I had to go to CAPS. I played soccer, but I couldn't stay on the soccer team because my grades weren't. You know, I was a knucklehead. And now I'm definitely at a place in my life where I think about 5-year plans. What do I want what do I want my son to see me as? Like, how does my son think of me? Because the older they get, the more they kind of realize who you are as a person. They're not just dad and mom, but like, oh, I saw my dad always gets up and goes run no matter how tired he is. You know, like it starts to really dawn on them, I think, the older that they get. So I think, you know, that's it. Obviously, we all want to do well financially. I think we all want to be successful. And success has so many different areas, right? Like fighting. When I first started fighting Muay Thai, I would go to Thailand and train. And you would go to these Muay Thai camps, and there would be these champions that fought at Lumpini Stadium, which is like it's just the mecca of Muay Thai. And there would be these Muay Thai champions with 250 fights. But at the end of their career, their job was now to train foreigners, Falang they call them. It's Thai for foreigners, Falang. Guys like me. I show up over there, and I pay them $25 in Thailand, and they train me for an hour or two. And I would always look at that, and even though I was so grateful to be able to train with somebody who is such a master of their craft, it made me sad because I'm like, I almost felt like I was taking advantage of something, because I'm here training with somebody who is so successful and a champion, but they were successful in the competitive aspect of it. They didn't have all the money where they could retire and get all kinds of treatment and stuff. They were still teaching Muay Thai and holding pads, which is just so, it beats down your body. And so that part of my life, when I was going to Thailand a lot, I realized, I remember telling my wife this, I go, I'm going to be an MMA fighter. I'm going to make it to the UFC. I know I am. I know I have it in me. But I want to be successful. And when I say successful, maybe it means making it to the UFC. Maybe it means becoming a champion. Maybe it means making money. But I want it to have a little bit of all of that. Because you could be a champion, but if at the end of your career you feel broken, then how successful was that career, right? Or you can make a lot of money, but if nobody knows who your name was, you don't get the glory. You don't feel like you were a champion, right? You're just sitting in a big house in a nice car.
Probably empty.
Feeling empty, or literally empty. And so for me, success always encompassed like all those areas, right? And it's just such a hard thing to do. But man, when you were talking though, it inspired me. It made me think about like for your story. I mean, obviously overcoming what you're dealing with right now would be the biggest win anyone can ever imagine. But what if you were able to overcome this, like your goal is already, and if you get out of the wheelchair and you start leading a more goal-oriented, normal life that you see yourself wanting to live, and then you could take that, and as you mentioned, maybe teach others. And like, I mean, what a success story that would be, to be able to take what was your downfall and make it
my superpower.
Your superpower, and then give it back to others. I mean, it would be a fantastic story, man.
It to me personally, like I'm starting to see it in small bits in my life, where it's like I am able to help another paraplegic with just a tip or something I picked along the way. It feels good to me because I remember the feeling of need, I guess, and whenever you receive that feeling, like that feeling, you feel so appreciative and so grateful. And now being able to return that favor to someone, I still feel grateful. It's like that selfish feeling, I guess, in a sense, but it's selfish and selfless, I guess, at the same time. And yeah, like you said, it's like success is so different for all of us, because obviously you have your goals, but like how do you want to feel at the end of the day? You know, I don't know if you're always been a real level-headed person, but man, with like struggling with so many people with depression and anxiety, that's such a battle nowadays. And it's like, I want to be able to find the way to, I guess, reword the ways that I do on myself to someone else. Because obviously, if I'm in a wheelchair and trying to say, hey, look, this mentality will help, you know, you get over depression. Maybe some people will understand it, or maybe other people say, oh, look, he's in a wheelchair, he's depressed for a different reason. Have you ever like experienced any sort of like depression or anxiety? Maybe even like, can you go into that any?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think as far as sports goes, fighting would probably be the leader at the top of the pyramid when it comes to that feeling of depression. You know, you could lose a game, but if you've ever been in a fight in your life and gotten beat up, you know that feeling of walking home and going, damn, I just got beat up. And I just feel like it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe. Your heart hurts. You feel like physically you kind of hurt. You feel like your confidence is taken. You feel like people look at you differently. It's like a death. What do you say to somebody when their loved one dies? It's hard to find the right words to say. Go talk to a fighter after they lost a fight. It's hard to say the right thing. They might not be feeling it at the time. It's hard to be motivating without overstepping your boundaries because you don't know where they're at. And you see fighters, because I've been there, man. I've been there so many times where you win a fight, you go back to the gym the next day or the Monday after, and you're the champion. Champ, what's up? Oh, dude, that fight was killer, this and that. And it's just like pat on the back, pat on the back, pat on the back. Jumping rope with confidence. I'm the man of the gym. You know, it's like that feeling. Man. You know, it's like it's infectious. And then when you lose a fight, you go to the gym, and people look at you like you died. They don't want to make eye contact, and they don't know what to say to you. And then some people say things, and man, like, yeah, you were doing good. And, you know, like, man, it sucks. You know, you get them on the next one, and you got to go home and live with that. And yeah, I just remember one of my last fights. It was more of a robbery. I felt like I won the fight. I thought I clearly won the fight. And I'm standing there getting really confident. And then Bruce Buffer says the cards, and it was 29-28 for him. And I was like, what? And then he go 30-27 me. I was like, yeah, 30-27. And then split decision, 29-28 for your winner. And he raised his hand. And I lost my shit. I was pissed, man. I was literally pissed. I mean, I was kicking and screaming, and they were telling me, you got to get out the cage. Like, the next fight's going to happen. I wouldn't even leave the cage. I was so angry. And I went back, and I did this emotional interview. I was like, who are the judges? I was almost like glass-eyed. I was just like, who are the judges? I want to see, what are they talking about? What are they scoring? This and that. It was so much. And that wasn't even like a bad loss. It was a robbery, which infuriated me. But it wasn't even like a bad loss where it wasn't showing me getting knocked out on Sports Center or something, you know?
You're not leaving on a stretcher.
It wasn't like that. I didn't even have to go to the hospital at that time. And so after that, I got injured and I had neck surgery. And then hand surgery. Immediately after I got done with the neck surgery, I have a hand surgery on my pinky. And so for a year and a half, I had to live with that. Every morning I woke up, go to the gym. Hey, what's up, man? What's up, man? Jumping rope. Not feeling like the champ today, you know? Wake up in the morning, have a dream about winning. I wake up in the morning and I go, I still have a loss. It's still a loss, you know? And it's like, I've got to right this wrong. I've got to right this wrong. And I was just so driven to get back into the win column. A year and a half went by. At that time, I was like 38 years old, 39. I'm pushing the limits of being a professional athlete. But I told my wife, I've got to get this win. I can't live with myself every day for the rest of my life feeling like this. And so when I finally had my last fight, my retirement fight, which I didn't know it was going to be, but I was leaning towards it, I got the win. And I didn't want to admit that I was going to retire. I couldn't even say the word. I called my manager and I told him, I was trying to say retire. I was like, I'm thinking, when I started like to say retirement, I started crying. And like, because it was so my identity. A guy that always drives to the gym an hour, goes there every day, works the hardest. I'm always staying after this and that. And it felt like I was giving up. But I knew I had put myself in a place mentally where I could live with myself for the rest of my life if I retired, because I came back, I'd got that win, I had overcome whatever obstacles I needed, that I felt comfortable waking up now and saying, okay, My identity is not a fighter anymore, but I know who I am. I'm a guy that overcomes obstacles. Got it, comfortable, and I hung up the gloves. And it was still, a small transition after, but overcoming that, man, that depression that set in for a year and a half was something that you have to deal with, and all fighters go through it. George St. Pierre is, a former champion, and he's one of the greatest guys that came out and was quoted as saying, I'm scared every fight. And people were like, what? George St. Pierre, the champion, the GOAT, one of the greatest fighters ever lived, says he's scared. He's like, yeah, every single fight. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. I've got anxiety, and I'm scared. I'm thinking about winning, but I'm thinking about losing as well. I mean, it's all those mixtures of emotions that flood your body, and then you're pushed out there. And it's like you may have an off day in something that you do in life. Oh, I'm a bit foggy today, but you have a foggy day when somebody's training to put you away. It's a really bad day. And so it's just that kind of warrior mentality of going and saying, I'm going to put myself out there for the world to see. No matter what happens, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. It's going to suck, but you have to kind of accept defeat before you can go and get the win. In case it happens, you're able to deal with it. And that's how you overcome the depression part of it in fighting. You just have to say, I'm going to continue going. I'm not going to quit just because this feeling right now is inside of me.
It's like that win or lose, I'm here for it, for regardless the outcome. And man, it's interesting how you said, like, with confidence, I find confidence has been key in so many different aspects, especially with trying new things. Like, dude, when I first went into the gym, for instance, I wasn't a fan of working out going into that. I was just an athlete. I was naturally athletic.
You were skinnier when you were young, right?
Dude,
I mean, I know you were young, but I saw some pictures. You were much skinnier.
I was a toothpick, man. So I was like 117 pounds whenever they got me in the hospital right after
117?
Yeah, dude, I
Oh
was
my
a
God.
freaking, like, I'm like 150 in that neighborhood now. That's the heaviest I've ever been. And so it's crazy to think, like, whenever I go into the gym, man, it's like I stuck out like a sore thumb. But I knew it didn't matter because I was in here chasing my goal. And I guess that kind of started to transpire into some sort of confidence, which led me to start making small accomplishments to continue building on that. But like, what are any insight on building confidence for someone, regardless if they're coming from a loss or just going to a new obstacle? It's like, man, it's all scary.
Yeah.
But how do they know that they're able to make the jump?
I say this time and time again, and this is something that I kind of live by. Momentum builds momentum. Momentum builds momentum. And it's just, once you do it, you get those first 2 weeks back in the gym away. And then all of a sudden you're rocking and rolling again. The same thing with anything that you're doing. Once you just go and say, I'm going to suck today, but I'm just going to go and get it done with. Yeah. And tomorrow's going to suck, but a little bit less. You go and do it. And the same thing for the following day. It's going to suck a little bit less. You keep getting better and better. Then it stops sucking. Because now you're freaking stronger and you're faster. You start to see the results after a couple weeks. And now it becomes contagious, man. Now you're like, oh, I've got this momentum. I just want to build on it. I just want to go home, do a little bit extra. I'm going to go to this gym a little bit earlier this time. I just want to see. Once you start seeing results, you want to build on those results. And that's the momentum side of it. And so I always tell people that, man, like, just go. Just do it. Are you scared to go learn a new language? Just do it for the first time and get one word. And then after that, just 3 words and so on and so on. Jiu-jitsu. When my son got into it, I say, look, this is what's going to happen. You can go to jiu-jitsu for the first day. Everybody's going to tap you out. Go to jiu-jitsu the second day. Everybody's going to tap you out. But by a couple of weeks, only a few people are going to tap you out. And then after a month or so, nobody's going to tap you out. And guess what happens after that, bud? You're going to start tapping other people out. And then it becomes like, oh boy, what else do I have? Now I have 3 submissions under my belt. Now I have 5 submissions. Now I have a whole arsenal of ways to submit people. And it's a way to just continue doing what you're doing, because as soon as you lose that momentum, you go, oh man, I'm out of shape. I forgot a lot what I learned, a lot of the things that I learned. And now I got to go. It's daunting. Just go and just do it. Just start, because you're going to find that momentum. It's going to help everything go smoother.
Right, man. And it's like sometimes whenever we're scared to just start, because a lot of people are scared of being bad at it. They're scared of sucking, and it's something new, and it's so intimidating. But yeah, like you said, you just kind of continuously keep going, being vulnerable, I guess, in a sense. You know, you can't be afraid to go out and be terrible at a new thing. Like, bro, 2 weeks ago, I couldn't even edit this podcast. I was like, man, talking to freaking Alan Jouban, whenever I had first met you and Dustin, I was so nervous going into that meeting. For what? Y'all are just normal guys. We're just all normal men, you know? And so now I'm starting to kind of like, to try to get that mentality of like, man, you know, regardless who it is, I can talk to them because they're just a normal person like me, or whatever the challenge is. Okay, I'm going to be bad at it, but I'm going to continue to show up, because I think at the end of the day, a real winner is just someone who can keep showing up. And so like, what could you add something on that, on the sense of like just showing up?
Yeah, I mean, you were speaking to me the other day about warrior mentality, right? And that's what it is in my mind. A warrior mentality. Yeah, a warrior is a guy that goes off to war and fights, or a guy that jumps inside the octagon. But really what it is a guy that's not afraid to be vulnerable, not afraid to fail, right? That's that warrior mentality. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to give everything that I have. If I fail, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to come back again and keep doing it and doing it and doing it and getting better. That's the warrior mentality. In any aspect in life, in fighting, in rehab, in anything that you're doing, you just have to go into it with a warrior mentality. I'm going to give it everything that I have. And at least at the end of the day, win or lose, I knew that I did that. I left it all in there, right? And then it gives you something to build on right there. But as long as you go and leave it all in there without the fear of failure stopping you, then you've won. Then you've got that warrior mentality.
And man, the fear of failure is what it stops so many of us. And man, how was I gonna say that? So for me, that fear of failure, well, for me, it was like kind of a life or death situation. There's the mentality that I put myself in, like it's a do or die situation, which maybe isn't necessarily the best to look at everything in life, but for me, it's like, it at least allows me the ability for, at the end of the day, like you said, like win or lose, I'm able to say I gave it my all. I showed up and I tried. I did what I could, you know? Shit.
All good, man. All good. You know, I like when you text me about that. What do you see? Like, what do you find is a warrior?
Oh, the vulnerability. That's where I was going with. So I feel like I've seen a couple of videos of bigger influencers or whatever. They talk about like how to not show any sort of how they say, don't show, you know, your nervousness or your afraidness. But it's like, I feel like that's kind of being fake in a sense, you know, putting on a front. But is it a front whenever it's you putting it on for yourself? Because man, sometimes I look in the mirror, like, and I'm about to go do something, like we're going to try new exercise or therapy. It's like, man, look at it. It's like, what if I'm gonna freaking suck? What if I go there and a fart turns into a short and we got a bad day, man?
Yeah.
But it's like, is it almost delusional, or is it maybe something needed whenever you're going through some crazy stuff?
I think you're onto something. It's interesting how to decipher that, because when you said that, so I've got a tattoo on my leg that I did early on in my career, and it says, keep your fears to yourself and share your courage with the world. And I might look at that a little differently these days, right? Because at that time it was speaking to what you're alluding to, that like, why do you have to cover your fears, right? It's okay. It's like, be yourself, right? You know what I mean? It's okay. You open up to the world. If you're nervous about something, it's okay. I think the bigger picture is just going and doing it, right? Keep your fears to yourself, meaning don't talk yourself out of it. And don't let the world know this insecurity that you might have, if it's going to push you away from it, if it's going to create negative energy. But share your courage with the world is just going do it, pushing yourself forward, just going and starting that day one to start that momentum, just doing what you have to do. But facing those fears, I think, is the bigger picture of the quote that I'm speaking about, because it's just, that's the failure thing. I mean, everything we've been talking about this entire show, it all comes down to that. So many people don't want to try something new. So many people don't want to fail, or don't want to fail in front of other people, to be seen like that, especially in a world of social media, man. You do something dumb, somebody's probably got a video of it. It's probably going to end up on a TikTok somewhere, you know what I mean?
Facts. And it's like, man, social media is so crazy, because a lot of people, especially in the paraplegic or the injured world, I guess to say, they look at me as the superhero, and it's like, they're like, man, how do you do this? And it's like, I'm okay with failing. And now I've done it so many times, like kind of it's just repetition. It's been able to, like, I'm able to take these losses and just, I could sit and marinate enough to know, okay, I'll show my highlight reel of my awesome steps at therapy, but they don't see the million times that I've failed and that my legs were just noodles. And so I guess I want to also be able to figure out a way to show people that it's okay, that vulnerability, because vulnerability is far from a weakness like many people may think. They're like, oh, we're men, we're supposed to be strong and we're supposed to have that iron face. It's like, bro, I've cried. I'll cry publicly if I need to, because that's a sign of me, I guess, the growth within me, to know that I'm as confident in myself as I need to be, to where I don't care what Alan thinks if I start bawling out crying, or what happens, or what this girl's going to say if she says no to the date and my face gets red. It's like, I'm just okay with that failure. And it's like, I guess I just need to show more people the behind the scenes. What do the failures look like?
It's the tip of the iceberg type scenario, right? Where people are seeing on social media that 20% good, right? They're not seeing the other 80% below the water. That is really the foundation of that good that everyone's seeing, right? And so you should do that. You should put a video out of a compilation of all your failures.
Oh, dude, that'd be a long one.
That you shit your pants.
It's like, hey guys,
at the gym.
This fart would not leave me alone.
I squeezed one out, whatever. I didn't get my goal to failure, whatever it was. Put that out there, man. Let them see that, because that's the foundation of all the success that you've had as well, right? And so I think that's actually a great idea. I'm going to have to do the same thing, show people the real behind the scenes when I'm trying to train my son, when he's kicking and screaming and crying that he doesn't want to do it. And then I finally get a good combo and I show him the beautiful combo and everybody goes, man, your son's a beast. I go, dude, I had to we had to get almost a fist fight to get him to do that combo. You know what I mean?
You had to fight tooth and nail just to get him
Yeah,
here.
that's the real life. That's what really happened. I just want to show you guys the good stuff, so...
Yeah, like you said, that tip of the iceberg. Everyone sees the awesome, that 20%. Y'all don't see how many times we shot our shots and failed, regardless of what area it is. Like, especially with, if some of these videos will go real good and people are like, man, you killing on the video. It's like, dude, I posted 100 other ones. You just didn't see them because they suck, you know?
Yeah.
And now I'm just trying to figure out a way to, I guess, make it more methodical in a sense, to say now I could document my failures more and know this didn't work. Hey, you could try it, but it didn't work for me. But here now we found the success. We found the 20% that actually ended up working for me, and
that's great. I mean, if you could almost write, I don't know about write out a formula to success, but you're going through the struggles right now of what needs to happen. So the people in the same position as you that are looking up to you, at least you could say, look, this is what I know doesn't work because I've done it, and this I've found no success in it. But these are the things that I've done that I'm finding success. I mean, at least you could rule out or rewrite the books. Rule out right away. Don't even waste your time. Don't even waste your money doing these things.
Right.
These are the things you need to be focusing on. And I think, like I said, you're able to continue with your success. A lot of people are probably going to look towards you and asking questions, as everybody does, right? Like, how did you get your black belt in jiu-jitsu? This is ABC. What I had to do. How did you find success with it? This is what I went through.
And I've noticed that a lot in the business world, especially because with social media and business, oh my God, everybody's a startup and they have all these entrepreneurial tips. So it's like when I had initially started InnerAnimal, it's like I brought my tax and my CPA the first tax season. I brought them all my expenses. I'm like, bro, look, this guy on TikTok said I'm going to get a check though from the government. He laughed. He was like, this is not how deductions and write-offs work. And that's just one instance of like, wow, that was the life kicking me in the nads, to learn that lesson. And I feel like some people, we just need to, I guess, step out of our comfort zone and learn how to, embrace that, fail forward, fail, because now you're able to take a note of what didn't work and try the next thing.
Yeah. I think it's something, I've always been a very big, like, goal-oriented guy. New Year's Eve every night, or New Year's Day rather, the next day, I always write out all my goals for the new year, right? Big, small, I write them out. And then I take some of the bigger goals and I say, okay, I want to make X amount of money. How am I going to do that, right? Then I write out smaller goals on how to achieve that. And then I make even smaller goals where if I'm going to do that, I need to put this amount of time into this every day, right? And it can be done with anything in life, but I've always found that helped me. I was a kid, like I said, a little bit like you, from what you've mentioned, that, you know, I wasn't great in school. I was a little bit of a knucklehead growing up, made a lot of wrong decisions. When I found out who I was as an adult, I go, well, that's not even who I am. I was doing that because I didn't know who I was. I didn't really have direction or know what I wanted to do in life. And then when I found out I wanted to be a fighter and I had purpose and direction, I go, well, you know what? My goals have been aligned wrong this whole time. I didn't even have goals. Now I have goals, and I know, okay, if I really want this because I'm passionate about it and this is what makes me happy and feeds my soul, let me write out my goals. Not only at the beginning of the year, but every single day. Every single day, you go home. If you ever come to my house, you're going to see just these notebooks, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, with all these like bullet points. And I do it every single day. Just saying, look, do this, get better at this, work extra hard on this, try to eat clean, to like something. But it gives you these constant reminders, and all those little each day notes add up at the end. And then when something happens at the end, you go, oh, shit, I reached my goal. But it's because I stayed consistent with it throughout the entire year.
Have you ever heard of mindstorming?
No.
Man, so it's I think it was Bob Proctor who had said it. It's basically like, so if I want to set my goal to make $100,000 a year, right? Take the time to write out 20, I guess, questions, or what can you do to get your mark? And obviously at first people are gonna put, well, I can make 10,000 a month or whatever, and you know, break it down. And it's funny enough, last year I did this, and it's like, well, how do I get my next round of stem cells? And I'm looking at BioAccelerator, it's like $60,000. To me, that's impossible. So what did I do? I wrote it down. Sure enough, by like answer 13, get Tim Metcalf to mentor me, meet Dustin Poirier. Like I wrote a couple of things that were literally me just throwing darts at the wall.
You threw that out into the universe, and it happened, right?
Exactly. And man, you said something earlier about energy. I feel like energy has been such a superpower in like understanding the universe, and like I'm starting to get more in biblical and learning more about Christ and the Bible and stuff. It's like I want to be more knowledgeable about energy, you know? So what do you think is a really good tip that someone could understand about energy? Because what you put out into the world, more likely going to reciprocate some sort of energy from that.
Yeah, I think that as well. I think just not only we've spoken about like afraid of failure, but afraid to put things out there. I mean, I hate to use Facebook as an example, but I've got so many cases of I remember before I had made it to the UFC and I was still fighting on these small cards in Los Angeles, and I couldn't get a fight. I had a decent record and this and that, but I was a dangerous fight for people, which means like I was like 5-1, but I was better than that record. So they're like, well, I don't want to fight a guy that's really tough with a 5-1 record. I don't get any gains from it, right? So I couldn't get a fight for a long time. And I remember one day I went on Facebook and I typed out, I cannot get a fight. Please, God, send me someone who can facilitate that, or something like that along those lines. And then this guy who was my manager at the time, this guy that lived in London, who was a startup manager, early in his career rather, named AJ, he messaged me. He says, Alan, this is God. I'm going to find you a fight. I was like, all right, man, I guess you saw my post, right? And then a week later, he found me this championship fight. That was on this golf course, and it was like I met Sylvester Stallone was sitting front row, and it was like it was all this crazy stuff. And then I won the fight, and I got that fight, and then I got signed to the RFA, which I told you about, which eventually led me to the UFC. And I go, man, that all started because instead of sitting there bitching to myself, I put it out there and kind of like almost asked for help, or just put it out into the universe. And somebody came, and he happened to have enough connections to connect me with whoever I needed to connect to get a fight with this promotion, and it all worked out. And there's so many times that I've done that where I stuck with it. And I said, I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to talk to someone. I mean, we met by chance that one time. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I think Tim had called me and said, hey, you know, we're going to meet over here, meeting a guy, talking about you, you know, talking about a good guy, man. You might be interested in it. Talk a little business as well, this and that. I showed up. We met. I liked your mindset. Now we're here talking, right? It's just because like the little things that when you kind of put it out there, it'll come back sometimes and it'll reward you for it.
Right. And it's like some people are so scared to put out their thoughts or ideas. Like I've got so many friends that, oh man, I've got this really awesome business idea. Well, what is it? Oh, well, I don't want to tell you. it's like, well, I'm not going to steal your thing. You know, I guess so many people are so afraid of someone stealing their goal or their dream. And it's like, dude, if it's for you.
But you have to tell your dreams to dreamers, right?
Exactly.
You can't tell your dreams to your parents sometimes because your parents are going to say, no,
This is impossible. You're not going to, hang it up.
Or somebody that's not on the same energy, the same frequency as you. Like if you're talking, if you're an entrepreneur, you're talking to entrepreneurs, that's the best type of conversations, right? If you're talking about your rehab with another guy who's been in your situation, you guys are going to have that commonality there where things are going to bounce back and forth, right? But if you're sharing your dreams to someone who is not a dreamer, that's the quickest way to crush your dreams, right? It's never going to happen. You're going to feel like you just spoke your dreams with passion to a brick wall because nothing's going to come back to you. And so that's one thing that I've worked on over the years. It's like holding things tighter to me that I'm nervous about getting a bad energy from, but sharing them with people that I know something will facilitate from it.
Right. And that's a really good point, actually. It's like, man, it brings me back to, well, a little bit before my physical therapy was canceled initially, man. This was maybe a year and a half into my injury. It's like, bro, I was fighting hard. I was showing up. I was putting in the work and even trying at home, putting my extra hours in. And I still got that devastating, no, it's never going to happen. Like I had a physical therapist at the time. He told me, he was like, man, look, your therapy is kind of getting stagnant. I don't find you being able to use these braces for everyday living. Like, you're not going to be able to walk again. And man, that crushed me. I was like, oh my God. The professional that I have in my corner is now telling me to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
But it kind of lit a fire under my ass, bro. It was like, oh yeah? Well, now look, I got something to come talk to you about. And it's crazy. It's like one of the last things me and him spoke about was once your muscle, because I said, well, what happens if my muscles start to get atrophied, but I start seeing recovery? Like, am I able to bounce that back? He said, no, man. Once it's to the point of atrophy, it's typically going to not recover from that, or however he worded it. And, bro, I went back to that same clinic about a year ago. I was like, look, old dude. My thighs are up 2
growth
inches.
In your legs, yeah.
I said, my thighs are 2 inches thicker than the day I rolled out of here. What do you have to say about it? He didn't know what to say about it. It's like, look, regardless of what you believe in, if you at least believe in yourself and put enough effort to it, you can see some crazy things with your life.
That's interesting, man. When I had my neck surgery, I was going on for a couple months, and it was just severe pain shooting down my left side of my body, and I was just sleepless at night. The pain was just, it wouldn't allow me to relax to be able to sleep and recover. And I couldn't really train because of it. And I started seeing a lot of atrophy. The whole left side of my body, my left like pec and bicep and tricep and everything shrunk pretty dramatically. And so I went and saw a specialist, and they said, yeah, we need to fuse you 2 levels, but maybe we'll do one now, one later. And I was like, and he was the leading guy on the West Coast. And I said, man, like, do I need to go through something that severe? He goes, listen, you're at the point where your nerves are pinched for so long. And the nerves, he said, kind of work in like 3-month increments. After 3 months, it's a little less percentage that you're going to be able to recover. 6 months, it's a little smaller percentage. Now you're at the 6-month mark. But I didn't want to do the fusion because the thing about fusion, you lose about 30% of your mobility. And I said, well, I still need to fight. I'm still fighting. He goes, well, this is the safest one. He goes, now you can do a disc replacement, which is going to allow you restrict only about 15% of mobility, but it's not as concrete. You could re-injure it. And so now I have the specialist, the leading guy in America, asking me almost my opinion, right? And I'm like, shit. I mean, he's the black belt. I'm the white belt in this.
Like, I'm brand new. I'm asking you.
And I got to make this decision. But I went with the disc replacement. I took a bit of a chance, and it allowed me to still keep more of a range in motion, continued fighting my career. 10 years later, I'm still doing jiu-jitsu and everything, and I'm fine. But, yeah, sometimes you have to make your own decision. I forgot. I lost track my train of thought on that one, how I got into that conversation. Oh, we're talking about the thing. But so I didn't want to do the surgery, though, because I was just like, I do not want to get cut open and have this neck surgery. And so my biggest thing was the day of the surgery, I went there, and I'm talking to my wife in the waiting room, and I was like, I was so nervous. I've had so many surgeries, but the neck one was just a scarier one when they're dealing with your spine and all that stuff. And so I said, I'm going to see if I can do a push-up. And I got on the floor, and with everything that I had, I mean everything, I got a push-up. But it was really like 90% my other arm. This arm was doing
Just balance
nothing.
a little bit.
Yeah, I just kind of like willed that push up. This arm didn't do shit. And I go, I can't live like this. I'm just going to just let this continue, my body continue to get smaller and the muscular atrophy continue to take away everything that I've worked for and just never fight again. I said, I got to go through the surgery, man. Like if I got to do what I got to do, and had the surgery, was able to recover a year later, got back in the octagon, won some fights. The rest is history. But yeah, the muscular atrophy, I had a bunch and I gained that muscle back. You know what I mean? None of our bodies are completely proportionate in any way. And I'm all jacked up from all the injuries that I've had.
But you're able to continue chasing your purpose.
Yeah, and I got the muscle back. Like just I'm saying to your point about once you reach muscular atrophy, says it's irreturnable or whatever. No, man, I got it back. I had to work harder, but I got my strength back in that left side of my body.
Yeah, it's like if you get the choice, you got to take the chance to take a risk. I find, and because I get so many people, well, what are your doctors saying? What are the surgeons saying? You know, neurologically speaking, I'm obviously in layman's terms, I'm no genius. So it's like, I really don't know what the predictions are. I don't know what to even expect. But I know one thing, that I have something in my mind and I'm going to continue to chase it. And until I just can't wake up one day, I'm going to keep chasing it. Or until I catch it and I'm on to the next chase. And it's like you said, it's like you don't always need the strength of that opposite arm. You don't always need the strength if you have the willpower, if you have the want, the mindset, the mentality to be able to say, look, it's going to hurt, it's going to suck. I'm probably going to fall because my only one arm's working. But I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep pushing. And, man, I'm going to just keep pushing. That's all I can continue to do. Because so far it's gotten me through some pretty dark trenches, and it's got me to some amazing mountain peaks. But regardless if I'm in the valley or the peak, I'm just going to continue to push.
You've done a lot with it, man. I mean, we haven't known each other that long. But like I said, since I met you, initially I could see how motivated you were. I mean, you were a ball of energy that first day we met you, but you were just talking about everything that you did. And then when I saw a lot of your videos and your training and everything, and I just kind of tried to put myself in your shoes and go, yeah, if they said this is probably how you're going to be the rest of your life, I'd be like, good. That's the motivation I needed to light a fire, because now I'm going to do everything in my will to prove you guys wrong. And it's just going to continue as a purpose every morning for me. But I've been seeing it out of you, man. And yeah, I hope you keep making huge strides, man, and overcome this.
I'm going to keep trying, man. And regardless what that new 100% looks like, I'm hopeful that I could at least optimize it in a sense to give the other person the ability. Because now I got people, well, I don't know famous people. I don't know this. It's like, I didn't know anybody either. I'm throwing noodles at the wall, and eventually something's going to stick.
It's sticking, man. You're picking up traction.
I'm trying, man. And like you said, momentum builds momentum. I love that quote, because I don't know much about much, but I know one thing: if the ball keeps rolling, it's probably gonna roll faster. So just gotta keep it pushing and keep the ball rolling.